Hallo alle zusammen, heute machen wir eine Wiederholung von Nominativ, Accusativ und Dativ. Hi everyone, so today we're going to review cases 1 through 3, that's arbitrary numbering, but nominative, accusative, and dative case. So we're going to go through and do a quick review of those three. Saw was nominative case, that's also the first case you learned in German. That is probably because it's the most important case, because anytime you have a sentence, you're going to need a subject. And nominative is your subject case. Okay. Nominative is also used when you have something predicate to the subject, or a predicate adjective or predicate noun. Those specifically show up when you have the verb to be or to be called. We'll get to that in a second. And of course, there are specific endings for nominative case. We're going to talk about those. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of examples. Der Schüler lernt Deutsch. So in that example, in Der Schüler lernt Deutsch, you've got der Schüler in nominative case, and that's because this is the actor in the sentence. Okay, another thing to remember with that is whenever you have a verb, it is conjugated for the subject. So subject, nominative case. All right, I'm going to expand on our little example. Der Schüler heißt Marc. Der Schüler ist groß. So, we've got der Schüler again. Of course, that is the subject of the sentence. The verb is conjugated for it. And then we have Marc. Now, Marc is a predicate noun, proper noun here. Specifically, you can call this a subject completion, if that makes it any easier. So these two things are the same person. It completes the subject. In English, we just do this with the verb to be. Here we have heißen, which is the to be called. We do the same thing. So Marc is also in nominative case. The same is true if you have an adjective. So der Schüler ist groß. Marc ist groß. This is also predicate adjective, and thus it is also a nominative case. All right. So I said you have specific endings. When you have something like this, like groß, for example, you wouldn't have any endings. But your der is already showing one of the endings. So I'm going to switch to the case chart really quick. I'm going to give you guys one more example to show you an ending. So der große Schüler heißt Marc. Oops, missing my K. So we have the subject, which of course is nominative. There's one of the adjective endings. Here's a der word ending. And we have Marc, which is predicate, so thus it's also nominative. Predicate noun. Okay, let's switch to the case chart really quick, where we have nominative. For masculine, feminine, neuter, and plural, we have der, die, das, and die plural. So those are the primary endings. Those, of course, would also go on other words. So if you have diese, dieser, dieses, and diese plural, those other der words also have those. Another one would be the question word welch, or which, welcher, welche, welches, and welche. Okay, then we have the little pocket ending for two of these. Those apply to the ein words. So we have mein, meine, mein, and meine. So no pocket ending means you just use the primary ending. And the bottom, that's your adjective ending. So we had the example sentence, der große Schüler So I'd use the primary ending, der, and then I had to go to the secondary ending for the adjective, große Schüler. So secondary endings, whoa, are your adjective endings. Sorry about that pop-up there. Okay, was accusative case. Now accusative case was your direct object case. It was the thing being verbed. But you also used it with accusative prepositions. There were 5 of those that you needed to know anyway. There's a couple more. And then you had the two-way prepositions. And that was the number 9. So first of all, the thing being verbed. I had the example. Der Schüler lernt Deutsch. So the verb I'm using in this case is lernen, right? So I would say, wer lernt Deutsch? Der Schüler, that's my subject. Was lernt der Schüler? Deutsch, that's my direct object. So what is being verbed or what is being learned? Deutsch. So you can just use the verb that is in the sentence to identify what is being verbed. And that is your direct object. Okay. Then we've got accusative prepositions. There were 5, I said. You've got gegen, durch, ohne, and für. Those were the 5. Now, these bottom 3 only have one meaning that's really key, and that is through, without, and for. The top 2 mean 2 different things. We have them when they are used with places or space. In that case, they mean around and against or into. But we also have them with time. And when you're using them with time, you have things like wie viel Uhr? So at and around. So notice that the meaning switches as far as which one is around, depending on what it is. So when it's spatial, for the top 2, the rest can also be other things. You have these 2 meanings. When it's something related to time, you have these. So I could say, ich fahre den Baum. Den Baum. So we've got den Baum. And here's my little car, and I'm sitting in it. I'm going to go. Okay. So ich fahre den Baum. Den Baum in this case is an accusative case because it's masculine. So we've got an accusative ending. All right. And then we had the 9 two-way prepositions. 9 two. Okay. So here's your giant number 9. Here is your giant number 9. And we, of course, had über, auf, vor, an, in, neben, hinter, zwischen, and unter. That meaning over, on top of, in, between, under, next to, behind, on, here specifically a vertical surface, and in front of. So those 9. The key thing to remember when you were using those 9, however, the key thing to remember when you were using those 9 was that you had to have motion. Now we just learned this, so you guys should remember that there were a couple of verbs that worked with that, and that was stellen, legen, hängen, and setzen. So one example would be, ich stelle die Lampe auf den Tisch. Okay. So in this example, we've got, this is our two-way prepositional phrase. So der Tisch, masculine. In this case, it's an accusative. But there's another thing in accusative in this. Can you guys figure out what it is? All right, hopefully you got this. So what is being put on the table? And it's the lamb. So this is also accusative case. Okay, ich stelle die Lampe. What am I stelling, or what am I putting? The lamp. And then prepositional phrase, so that's accusative with the two-way prepositions. Okay, I'm going to go back to the case chart. Oops. Okay, here we go. Here's the case chart for you guys. We have the row with accusative. I want to point out only one little thing. The switch between nominative and accusative, the only place there's a change is right here. Only in the masculine column. Anything that was der or didn't have an ending for the ein words becomes an N. So we have den or einen. And then the secondary ending, the same thing happens. We have an N instead of an E. All the other ones look exactly like nominative endings. So just remember that you have a change in the masculine column. That's all you need to know. Okay. And our third case, probably the hardest of the three. Dative case. For dative case, you needed to remember that it was the indirect object. There's someone at the door. Okay guys, sorry about that slight interruption, but I am back. So again, dative case is your indirect object case. A lot of the times, not always, that is going to be your recipient. So if you have a recipient in a sentence, like I'm giving my mother a gift, my mom is the recipient, a lot of the time that's your indirect object case. Of course, there are dative prepositions. Oh, and I forgot how many you learned. I think it's 7 or 8. I'm going to guess 8. We'll see in a second. And then you have the two-way prepositions. And in this case, preposition, there's a T there. In this case, they are the ones when there's no motion. Or actually, more specifically, no change of distance between things. Okay, so to give you an example, and I already said one in English, so I'm just going to give you the same one. Ich schenke meiner Mutter einen Apfel. So in this case, we've got meiner Mutter. So she's the recipient in this case. So thus she is in dative case. Indirect object, dative case. Okay. Of course, in that you have schenke. So schenken, to give a gift. Schenken is one of the many, many dative verbs you guys learned. So dative verbs are verbs that specifically take dative case. They either have to have a recipient or they're just weird in some way that in German we make them dative. Another one is geben, to give. Danken, to thank. So think of it as you're thanking someone, so there's a recipient. Okay, another one would be antworten, to answer. And then helfen, ich helfe ihm, to help. Pretty sure there's more that you guys learned. Folgen, to follow. Gratulieren, to congratulate. And I think, oh, gehören, to belong to. So you belong to someone. You congratulate someone for something, of course, and you follow someone. So all of these have a someone in there, so that they all are dative verbs. They require an indirect object to complete them. Ich danke dir. Ich gebe dem Mann. Ich helfe meinem Vater. Okay? All of those have that indirect object. Okay, then lots and lots of prepositions. If you don't remember the little song, außer bei mit nach Zeit von zu. So we've got aus, außer, bei, mit, nach, Zeit, von, and zu. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ha, I guessed right. So those were your little prepositions that you had that take the dative case. If you do not remember what they mean or examples of them, I'm going to add a page right here for you guys to look at. Please pause the video if you need to. You don't need to write all of these down, but any of the ones where you don't remember what they are, do write them down. Let me see. The specific prepositions and the list of those is also in your grammar tables in the back, and that's an annex page. Let me see. Grammar tables, annex. Page 32. So they're also way at the back of your workbooks, all the way in the back. However, it does not give you the translation, so do write down the meaning if you need them. Okay, lastly, you had the two-way prepositions. The two-way prepositions, in this case, of course, they had to be no motion. That specifically meant that was the little dative is dead, but you were using stehen, liegen, sitzen, and again, hängen is the same in present tense. Okay, so there was no change in present tense. So an example of this would be der Mann steht in der Ecke. Okay, so I'm using stehen, and I've got my two-way preposition, and I've got in der Ecke. So this is going to be dative case. Now you don't have to be using those 4 specific verbs. You can of course also use different verbs. For example, I can replace this with ist. There's no motion when you have ist. Der Mann ist in der Ecke. Same thing. Dative is dead, there's no motion. Another thing I could do, however, and this is going to be a little confusing, die Leute tanzen in der Disco. So the people are dancing in the disco. Now, of course, you are thinking dancing is motion, right? But here's the disco. Here's lots of people. They're all dancing. They're not leaving this place. They're in this place. If one of them were to leave, then we would have motion. But we don't, because they're stuck in the disco. So that's die Leute tanzen in der Disco. Dative is dead. This is going to be in dative case. If you were to accidentally say die Leute tanzen in die Disco, that means that they're dancing into it. They're in motion. They're getting there. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If this part does not make sense, please ask me about it. I'm going to go back to the case chart. So here's your case chart again. 3rd row, or 4th row, I guess technically. We've got dative case. Now this is the MRM, MRM, and N plus N. What is this N plus N about again? Who remembers what this was? Okay, hopefully you guys got this. that second N is on the noun object. So if you have dative, that indirect object, noun, if something is plural, if it doesn't already have an N, you're going to add one. The rest is, again, primary endings. Bottom row makes it super easy this time because it's all N's. Those are your secondary endings. So MRM. Okay, that was the mini review for all of these. What I want you guys to do really quick is we're going to do a little bit of practice. First of all, we have a couple of English examples, and I want you guys to mark these as subject, direct object, indirect object, and object of a preposition. And when you have object of a preposition here, you don't need to mark it for case, because of course this is English and we don't mark things for case. So we'll worry about it when we get to the German ones. Pause the video and go through and do these four really quick. Okay, so that was in English, super easy. We're going to do one set in German. We have another 4 sentences. You're doing the same thing. However, if you have an object of a preposition, I want you to actually mark it with the case. So I want you to mark subject, direct object, indirect object, object of a preposition, and make sure you mark the case. All right, all of that was super easy. Now it's your turn to go and practice all of this. Now in this case, you're adding a bunch of different things. You have to add ein word endings, like in this case, you've got ein, you've got der word endings, like right here, and you have a bunch of different pronouns. I did not review the pronouns with you, so we did not go over these, but they are in your spiral. So what I want you to do, if you need to look them up, if you don't remember them by heart, is flip to page A30, A30, in the back of your spiral. At the very top it says 3 pronouns, A personal pronouns. And all of your personal pronouns are right there for you to check out. Go ahead and go through and complete all of those blanks for me, please.